Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Office Hours.
Yo, we are
What's up?
here.
We're here, and you guys, we need to go live about 5 minutes before because the conversation that was happening right before is how Limp Bizkit is probably like the best band of all time. So if
Don't
you
add
love Limp,
us.
yeah, don't add us. If you love Limp Bizkit or any bands from that era, let us know in chat. We are here. Oh, I just double autoed you again. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let us know what bands you liked from that era. And let's intro ourselves. Hello, my name is Andrew Hochradel. I'm Hawk.co on all social media. This guy over here is.
I'm Nick Longo, graphic designer, Los Angeles based, and happy to be here, ready for class, like
Yeah, this is going
everybody
to be a
else
fun
is.
time. Yeah. So if you're
Yeah.
just joining us, this is Adobe Office Hours. It is a semester long class. We are in week 3 of our class, going all the way through to the end of December. We are here to help you with career development. So anything that you want to learn, that you want to grow in, we're here to help you with that. There are some great ways that you can get connected, and one of them is right here, bit.ly/fall semester/al. And what that is that is the link to plug you into our Discord. Nick, what is in the Discord? What's going on in there?
Everything that we do is revolved around homework. So what you guys can put in there is stuff that we can review, others can see as well. It's just a way to communicate and kind of be a part of the class.
Exactly. And
It's
you
just
can
one of
talk
those
about
days.
it's just one of those days.
Nice one, Sam.
Oh man, we're just gonna sneak Limp Biscuit quotes into the entire show today.
Without
So
breaking stuff.
without breaking
Oh.
stuff, yeah. All right, let's go, baby. All right, wow, we're starting like this. This is how this episode's gonna go. All right. You can also get plugged in to the Discord. There is a channel for us to talk about the fall semester if you have questions, if you just want to talk to us and hang out. There also is a homework channel, and that's right, this class does have homework. It's a great opportunity for you to get involved and for you to find where you can get better plugged in and things that you can learn from. The link, Nick, do you know the link that we have
I
for
do
there?
not know the link because
Yeah,
you
that's
just
right.
sent it to me to get on track with all this
We
stuff.
tried. The link that you can do is not that one, not this one, not that one, but this one. Nope, that's not the one either. Um, one of these has it. We're just there. It is. There it is. I found it.
Ah,
There's too
whew.
many scenes for this one. Right down here, Adobe bit.ly/Adobe Office
Oh,
Hours
thanks.
is the
Sam got
link
it up there.
that you can go to. My goodness, that was rough. And Nick, once people
Yes.
are there, they will see. Oh man, my fingers have muscle memory from my other shows that I've been doing. That's what's happening. So you can go to this folder. This is going to have all of the assets that you'll need for the class. You can check out the promo assets. And in the first week, we have our syllabus. This week, we have 9.4. In here, we have our presentation deck for copywriting, which is what we're talking about today, as
Yeah.
well as your homework for the copywriting section. So make sure that you go and check that out. Nick, can you go
Hmm.
ahead and tell everybody a little bit about what we will be talking about today?
Yeah. I love this topic. This is copywriting, and I think as designers and as people that are attached to marketing in some way for either our clients or for school projects or for projects we're working on at our job, copy is probably sometimes, I can't believe I'm saying this, more important than the design. I think in a lot of ways, we are communication designers, and copy and what is being said is just as important as how things look. So we want to give you some tips and tricks on how to use persuasion, clarity, storytelling, real copy to help you start off a project, ignite a new thing with a client. Maybe you're writing your resume, maybe you're putting copy on your website. We've been a huge, advocate of that, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Yep. Talking all about really how to talk and how to communicate as yourself about a brand or
Yeah.
communicate on behalf of a brand. So we're actually going to do 2 different sides to this
Ooh.
this week, which is going to be very fun. Nick is going to give the side of what a portfolio might look like when you're copywriting, and I'm going to talk a little bit about presenting and building a brand voice for a client. As always, if you have questions, drop them into chat. If you have any comments on what we're talking about or things you'd like to see in the show in the future, drop those into chat. If you have any funny jokes, go ahead and drop those into chat as well.
The
Just
funny
let us
bands are
know.
showing up.
Why not?
Third
Yeah.
Eye Blind, Spin Doctors.
Yes. And at the end of
Keep them
today, we're going
coming.
to do a little exercise chat where you get to inform what we do. And we're going to do a little, again, like we did last week, we're going to do a little bit of a practice to show you our process for writing writing copy. So you get to be involved in that, and you get to pick. So get those fingers ready to type a 1, 2, or 3 at the end of our lecture. All right, so I'm going to push the button and hop over into our lecture for today. Nick, do you want to take it away and get started?
Let's do it. All right,
All
we're
right.
going to get straight to tip number 1 here.
All right.
My first tip is to be human, not a robot.
Yes.
And I remember someone reviewing some copy I wrote years ago, and they basically said that it did not sound like it was coming from you and your personality and who you are. And the best thing I can say is to keep the emotion, keep the personality of who you are in your copy. So drop that professional buttoned up tone if that is not you. Keep it very authentic, and then you're relating, I think, more to your audience. Because I know when you do speeches or you speak in front of people, I think most of us have that tendency, and correct me if I'm wrong, to kind of be something you're not. And so the minute you go back to just who you are and your true self, it's the same with copy. It's much more authentic. Have you had success with that as well?
I very much, I think, have a very unique voice, a little sassy, a little kind of tongue-in-cheek is more our brand. I'm actually in a series of writing my lessons that I've learned in my first year full-time freelance. If you guys want to learn that, it's kind of an extension of office hours of little lessons that I've learned. And all of those are in my voice, right? That it's not about like, oh, make sure that you find good clients that can further your career. Like, I think my takeaway from that one was like burn bridges that are on fire. And so for me, I've just owned, this is my voice, this is how I'd communicate that. And when I write copy, it comes through, that it feels a little sassy, feels a little in your face. All of my work kind of is trying to be a little punchy. And so you can go read that at my Behance profile. If you click right here, I just do that because I don't know where the button is. Just like wherever the button is, you can click there and do that. But yeah, I find a lot of success with that. And Nick, we have a question from Joe. I was told that I should write the copy in my about section in third person. Why?
Ooh, I don't have a particular preference for that, how it's written. I guess to me, as long as it's done right and it is in your tone, I don't see a big difference. I'm assuming, I think, what's the consensus? Is it more third person? Have you heard that as well?
So I think I've heard that. What I found is I like to write like on my site or anywhere that I'm introducing myself. I'll write it first person because I'm like, I just want you to meet me.
Yes.
But I do have a bio that is in third person if I need to send it to other people. So if they're talking about me, there is a version that is, hey, this is somebody else talking about me. If I'm trying to introduce myself, I don't want to like feel like some agency is running my website. Like I want it to be me that you're connecting to.
Yeah, same way. Like I like how you said earlier, like if there's one word that can be described as the filter that all your copy personally for you, what's that word that you would say all your copy is filtered through? You said like,
so my three, my three that I always do, and even in my work, this is my voice of like my brand voice is cold, bold, and old are the three that I do. So I want it to be cold, that's just like to the point. I want it to be bold, punchy in the face, and I want it to feel old, more an aesthetic, and maybe in some of the verbiage and words that I use is kind of push that back into this almost nostalgic, like vintage, like, oh man, I wouldn't necessarily think of that word in it, but kind of plugging that in.
Yeah, I'd love to know if the chat has a word that they think describes their personality, their voice the best. What is it?
Yes.
I still kind of struggle with it too. I like to say like it's, there's a confidence, but there's a flexibility, or there's a passion, but there's not a precious vibe. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I'd love to know what you guys think. What is that word that you would put all your copy through a filter of, you know?
I love that the like your copy is not precious. I think that's a really interesting way to like think about it.
I learned that. Yeah. Cause I think a lot of times creatives there's a natural default that we are in that zone. And I remember I had a boss that told me, be passionate, don't be precious. And I remember even not understanding it until when I broke it down, and I'm like, now I get that and I will live by that. Edgy. I like edgy, that. Justin's got edgy.
Yeah, cool. I definitely have told clients before that they're like, hey, we want you to like, we want to hire you for like your brand and your style. What do you think? Like, where would you take this? And I'm like, I'm going to destroy your brand, and you're going to need to be okay with it. That's like, that's how I'm going to pitch you. Like, I'm not going to try to like pitch you anything else. Like, that's my zone, is I'm literally going to like destroy this.
I love that Jay's got bubbly, but reserved. See,
Love that.
I think that's almost kind of a neat way to look at it. They should be kind of opposing opposites in a way. Like bubbly tells me, you have, you're fun, you're interactive, but reserved kind of tells me a little bit of the opposite, which I think is a cool way to do it.
Yep, absolutely.
Sarcastic.
And
Yep.
we'll actually get to that a little bit later when I
Yes.
talk about making a brand voice.
Cool.
That's a really great observation of bubbly but reserved. And we'll talk a little bit about more what we can do with that. So, Nick, next point, number 2, go for it.
Yeah. So I call this one Teach, Don't Preach. You could. There was a song like this, wasn't there?
Papa Don't Preach.
There you go. I knew you'd have it.
Is it the I will be your preacher teacher?
Oh, there's
Little
so
George
many
Michael.
now.
That's it. There's so many
You're
preaching
naming
songs.
them all.
Yep.
Maybe even Limp Bizkit has one with this.
Maybe.
I don't know, but we will find out. What I mean by teach, don't preach is don't try to prove how much you know something. Think about what's very polite and interesting when someone's talking to you. And I think if you make notes of what you really enjoy listening to, you like people that are teaching you, not just delivering the rules. So make sure it's a two-way conversation with the audience. You can even pop in a question, even if it's copy that you're writing to connect to an audience. Pop in a question, help them understand what you're trying to say without being too preachy. They are the center of your focus. And if you do it right, I think there's a really great way. I'm sure you'd feel the same way. Teaching has brought this into my vocabulary much better and the way I speak. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really not about when you're writing that it's like, look at all these things that I know. It's, hey, I know a lot of things and I want to share them with you. That's a completely different mindset to approach things from. That it's less about elevating yourself and more about like coming equal with the client, right? So it's bringing them up a little bit, or your reader, it's bringing them up a little bit and then maybe bringing yourself down a little bit, of figuring out what's this middle ground that we stay in the same place so that we can move forward together.
Yeah, perfect. Love that. Number 3. So this is the cornerstone for me. This is like the biggest thing, and it works with, I think, anything we're going to be talking about today is benefit over feature. And I remember learning this when I worked at the Gap when I was like in high school. And I just remember we were taught to be salespeople in a very unique way. And it was not to talk about the feature of a product. It was to talk about what was the benefit to you as the consumer. So if it had a button off hood, that was the feature, but the benefit was versatility, comfort, protection if it rains, take it off if it doesn't, like just that idea. And so if you sell yourself the same way, what are you offering? What are you helping them with? That's talking about the benefit to them, right? What is their pain point? How are you going to fix it? Lead with the benefit always, like even in headlines. And then you can lay out the features down below, and guess what? It connects the dots.
Yep. Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, some more of how we've seen that in your guys' portfolios. We see it a lot in portfolios, especially the ones that we've reviewed on this channel. And we'll give you specific examples of what not to do and maybe an idea of how to fix that. Because Nick and I have looked at a ton of portfolios. That's what I want. I'll say profiles. Portfolios. And there are things that we see in so many that we just need to keep reiterating. This is not what you should be doing. Yeah.
What's a benefit you think you would say as your headline on your website? Curious.
So I think that I think that in my bio, I talk about unique perspective.
Yes.
And when I sell myself, that's a lot of the benefit is, I have a unique perspective. I talk every now and then about like my influences to back that up. So I say, hey, the benefit is I have a unique perspective that maybe you won't get in other designers. That's a benefit. It's a different angle than you'd get from a lot of other people. It may not be the right fit for you, but it could be a benefit in the long run of us working together. And then I back that up with like, I'm inspired by, TV shows from the 50s and grew up in a different era and kind of explored different things in performance art, in classic literature, and those where my influences come from. And so that just gives me, hey, the benefit is my perspective, and here's what that perspective is, right? So you can't just sell an empty benefit. You have to back it up somehow with what that benefit and how it works.
Perfect. I'm putting
What's
it out
your
there
benefit,
too.
Nick?
I like to say, and I'm putting this out to you guys, so while we're talking, tell us what your benefit is. What do you bring to the table that maybe another applicant or another student or another vendor might bring, right?
Yeah.
For me, I always start with the idea that we build projects, branding and design for you from scratch. Like, you get it from the ground up. You get it where it's like, because we do so much in food and beverage, I like to say that because, again, it's relatable. It's one of those tangible things. If I say from scratch, it kind of sounds like a recipe. It sounds like we have the secret ingredients. We do all these things. So it helps me build my copy in the future to be just as kind of inspirational as that headline that they first saw.
Yep. And in my
Yeah.
brand voice, I very rarely will talk about creating a brand or a logo.
Yeah.
I will always reference it as a visual language or an identity system. And that is one of the benefits I try to sell, is that, hey, I'm not going to be like another designer. I think logos are completely invaluable and going to be irrelevant in 10 years. And so I'm going to build you a visual language that can scale infinitely and adapt as you go through the next 30 years. Which, okay, and you have all seen it. You have all seen me say multiple times, I think logos are irrelevant and visual systems and languages are going to evolve and take over. Have you seen the new branding for the LA Olympics in 2028?
We just talked about it today. Yeah.
Yep, that's 100%. I saw it and I was like, it's happening.
Yeah.
That, like, your logo doesn't matter. Sorry, that's going to be my hot take until it actually becomes true.
Well, the cool thing about it too is, you're right. It is definitely one of those things where it's versatile, it's ever changing, it's moving. I'm going to put the website here.
The link in
everybody
chat
has it. Yep.
Cool.
There it is.
Thank you.
So
and
take a
mod,
look at that.
yeah, if our mod can copy and paste that in so it's clickable, that would be super great. Thank you so much. I think Katrina is in there.
Cool.
So that would be great. And let's continue on. Number 4. What's our number 4, Nicholas?
This is wow, this is a common thing in a lot of our conversations lately.
That's true. We've said this word so many times.
It is the power of why.
Why.
And again, you are writing copy to highlight the purpose specifically. I do this in like my proposal, where the page where we talk about what we're going to do for them is the why. It's the value I'm going to bring as a designer, rather than I'm just going to be handing over designs to you and then you take it from there. I'm giving you solutions and I'm giving you resources and I'm giving you deliverables that are going to propel your brand, do something different, push the needle, whatever it is.
Yep.
So help the brand stand out from the competition by talking about the why, say what you're actually going to do, and then your offering will be much more clearly understood by them. Do you have luck with that as well by being very why driven here?
Yep. I very much push toward the why. Here's why we're doing this. Here's why this is happening. And then make sure that I really double down on the what. Here's why we're doing it, and here's what we're doing about that why.
Yeah.
And I think that communication really just puts people into a place, and especially with clients, with people that are reading case studies, even with copy, writing, trying to push something forward, defining the why. Why should I care about this? Why should I take action, right? If you have a call to action, why are you pushing them to action? Why, as the consumer, am I worried about taking action? You need to define why that is, and then lay out a path for me how to do that.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love this part because, to me, I think it's kind of the problem solver in so many ways. If you are struggling on a project, or if you're struggling to write something, having that why and having a page of like tons of these reasons, you can always go to it and pull from there and say, I was missing that component. Let me get that into paragraph 2 or whatever it is. And I just find it builds for you. It kind of like builds the outline, which is great.
Yep.
Okay.
And I always think defining the why and hitting like each of those points as you go, they're like, okay, this is a part of the why, this is the part of the why, this is the part of the why, and this is the part of the why. Then all the rest can start to fill in. You need those pillars to then build on top of. I love, Nick, you're going to get banned in chat for doing all caps. Be careful. Be careful, really? Sam, if we can just issue a warning to the user who's typing in all caps, that would be great. All right. So continuing on,
I wasn't yelling or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta follow the rules, Nick. I know this is your show, but
this is all about copywriting, and I'm showing you the power of all caps.
That's very true. So tip number 5, this is one for me, and this goes back to a little bit of what we talked about before. Talk about what you accomplished, not what you did. So I think a lot of times, especially in student portfolios, case studies, when you're trying to sell yourself and market yourself to a potential employer to get an intern internship, you talk a lot about the things you did, right? In school, I did this. In here, I did this. For my friend, I did this, right? You're talking about what you did and what the product was, right? What you
Yeah.
did and what the product was, when you want to be talking about what did I accomplish along with the client, right? That brings back
Yeah.
in, hey, I don't just do stuff for people. That's how you get low rates. That's how you get suckered into jobs that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
You accomplish goals with your clients, right?
Yeah.
And that change in verbiage and really thinking about how the way you communicate better positions you to come in to get an internship, and they understand, oh wow, they know how to be goal driven, to focus on what that goal is, and then partner with our company, our agency, our employer to reach what that goal is.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so here's an example, right? Discuss
Go for it.
feelings and emotions, not just products and applications, right?
Hmm.
So we talk a lot and we see so many students in
Yeah.
your portfolios and case studies, whether it's photography, whatever your discipline is, that say this project was a student assignment and I created branding campaign, right? This project
Yes.
was something assigned to me in blank class and I made blank. You can literally Mad Lib any word you want into there, and we've seen it 100 times. That copy doesn't tell me anything, right? It tells me, cool, so when I'm employing you as an employer, right, or I'm bringing you into an internship, I'm gonna have to tell you everything to do, and then you're just gonna do that.
Yeah.
I need more than that. And so thinking about how we say that, maybe I was excited to partner with this organization to drive momentum to reinvent their public perception, right? That's a
Yeah.
super easy way to push things forward, to really understand, oh, they know that it's not just about giving a product. That product needs to have meaning. I understand the why, and then I understand what they did on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Which this sentence right here brings up another great point. Make sure that you spell check and you read over your copy so that there aren't words missing. To drive momentum,
Tip number
reinvent,
one.
yeah, to drive momentum, space, reinvent their public perception. That should
Period.
be an and, or have a semicolon or something in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was intentional for me. No, you got to sell it if you're going to sell
Hoping
it.
to see if someone would catch that. But let's go with Justin had a great question. Other than using a thesaurus, what other ways can you generate with using new words for your copy? And I popped in a thing there. I use this one thing it's a website called One Look Reverse Dictionary. And it's kind of a very robust, super clean thesaurus, but it also gives you more like catchphrases that are alternates to things rather than just single word things. And I find it to be just a 10 times better spot to kind of like get some of those keywords that I always love it, because it's probably a word that's not in your vocabulary, but it's out there that means what you're trying to say. And I have found that to be a really great one. I like to look at other examples of great copyright and great taglines, great mottos. And you can find websites that break down the structure and the anatomy of how they're built. It's almost like a Mad Lib,
Yep.
and those are great. And if you got a few of those samples, like I remember there's one that's like, be the biggest and best of what you are, and that would be like the world's greatest shoe store or whatever, and that became the tagline there. Or what's one thing you do better than anybody else, call that out. So
Yep.
you can find a lot of good formulas, and then I start bookmarking these because they're great resources to use from from that point on.
Yep, I definitely had like a Mad Lib that I would data merge content into. That
Oh,
it was
cool.
like company name, action verb,
Hmm.
movement, and whatever, so that it was like, this company is a dynamic and engaging thing that does this, this, and this. It is
Yeah.
the blank in whatever, and I would literally just plug stuff in. And then my advice on that is instead of doing, like, you can do thesaurus stuff and that's fine, but like just saturating yourself in other things that communicate things
Oh,
in different
yeah.
ways. So I love listening to this is so weird. I love listening to things of people that don't have English first language describing things in English. I know that that's like the weirdest thing.
No, I get it.
But sometimes the way that they communicate and the way that they're piecing together what they're communicating is way more interesting than how we would communicate it just like if we're fluent in English. And so I
Great
think
idea.
that's really interesting. And
Yeah.
I love listening to a lot of like Broadway shows or seeing plays, because a lot of times they'll have to communicate things in different ways. There's a great example that's actually both of those, that is from a show called The Band's Visit. And this guy is talking about like missing his girlfriend or this woman that he loves, who always used to like call him. And he says, "My ears are thirsty for your voice." And I was like, that's the greatest way to communicate ever,
Yeah.
right? That we're
Yeah.
using one sense to communicate on behalf of another sense, right? And then
Yes.
that can apply to my copy, right? Then I'm like, cool, I'm not just going to say that this honey is delicious. I'm going to say that like, ooh, this honey is like seeing a gorgeous sunset for your mouth or something, right? That we're taking that concept and starting to
Yeah.
flip and twist it. And that's really just being inspired by other things outside of copywriting, outside of design, outside of photography, whatever.
Yeah, and you're right because it's someone who, but maybe English isn't their first language. They're pulling words from maybe what they've learned and what triggered them to evoke that emotion, and it might be something that's not in your vocabulary.
Yep.
And then you're like, whoa, like make a note of that. That's a really good one. I like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Cool.
This is just a free word for you guys that I like to use in some stuff. It's a musical term, and I'm literally just throwing this out because it popped in my head. It's called a glissando. And a glissando
Ah,
is when you start quiet and then you swoop up to something very loud. So that can be, if you're trying to drive momentum, if you're trying to gain energy, it can be a glissando of
sounds
energy.
like crescendo.
Yes, so it's like a crescendo, except it also slides the note as well as the volume.
Nice.
So I think
See,
crescendo
look
is
at
volume, and then note and volume.
what other class do you get this kind of information?
That's
Come
true.
on,
It
guys.
literally is just
Come
like,
on.
here's random stuff, just write it down. All right, power
Excellent.
tip. Nick, what is
Power
our first
tip.
power tip?
Oh, if this could be homework. This could really
This
be
could
homework.
be homework.
If we could do it. Okay. So I use this with my students all the time when they're struggling on what to say, how to say it, the right tone, whatever it is. It might be something that you just need to say and record yourself saying it first, then trying to write it.
Yep.
Right. So write as yourself, right? The personality comes through if you try maybe talking it through first, then going right to a keyboard. I find when you go to a keyboard, I write in a very structured way that might not allow me to, like, when you imagine yourself in a sandbox and you can play to your heart's content, right? But when I'm at a keyboard, I'm much more like, oh God, it has to be perfect and blah 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 blah.
Yep.
Right.
I've talked to my
Try it
project
out.
manager, and she said in person you're really approachable and you're fun, but when you type something you turn into a lawyer. And I'm like, yep.
Interesting.
That's exactly
Wow.
what happens. Like,
Yeah.
I am so casual, and like you guys have seen the shows, like I communicate, it's breezy, it's like a little
Hmm.
sassy. And man, when I write an email, I am a freaking lawyer. It is the most
Interesting.
boring thing you've
Yeah.
ever seen.
See, I was told too, like when my writing sounds like a news reporter. And again, it's like, where does that come from, right? We like, why aren't we just talking about it the way we would naturally?
Yep.
So use your voice recorder, do a few takes of something, even if it's choppy, even if it's bad. When you play it back, there might be little parts of it that you would have never written. So like now you have this, and it's like it's these gold nuggets of what to use now when you are writing. I say listen back to it. We think more clearly that way. It could be something worth just like, like we're going to talk a little bit about like, like maybe this feature and benefit thing, whatever. What is your biggest feature and what benefit does it bring to a potential client or a job?
Yep.
Record it. See what happens.
Yep, definitely record it. And I like to almost do like improv with myself,
Yeah.
and literally be like, cool, if I'm meeting myself, what questions am I gonna ask? So I'm like, cool, what's this company? Cool, like what do they do? Okay, why do I need that? And I
Yeah.
literally just have a conversation that I'm like, oh, they're like this cool tech company. Oh yeah, they do
Yeah.
this and this. And then I'll think like,
Yeah.
oh no, I didn't communicate that well. Okay, it's actually this and this. And then I start to piece together, oh, this is actually how I want to communicate this to get this person excited about it and on board with what I want to communicate with them.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, good points here too. Like just, I love having it copy it into an email, save it as a draft, then you copy and paste it into your document.
Oh,
So again,
smart.
too, yeah. Sometimes too, I'll just open up a Word doc or whatever and write in there rather than the email. I think for some reason I'm always afraid like I'm gonna hit send or something and I didn't go over my copy well enough.
Yep.
So I'll take it into that. It just feels a little more freer to write in. So
Absolutely. And
good
yes,
tip.
Jotima, one of the many characters of Hawk, a lawyer. Yes, that is very true. And yeah, if you guys saw, like we talk on this show about like closing deals and whatever, I was on the phone yesterday with a company to do some work with them in the future. And it literally wasn't just like, oh yeah, man, this will be so much fun. Like I love doing video content. It's going to be great. Like, yeah, it sounds great. which is what I say on the show, right? When we're talking on the show, I
Yeah.
literally am on the phone and I'm like, all right, could we go over the usage rights? Okay, are we licensing it for a worldwide distribution, or is it going to be just a local one-time event? All right, cool. We'll go ahead and send over contracts. We can start talking about what the rates would be and what compensation looks like. And I'm like, since when do I say the word compensation? Like what? So there is like this lawyer hawk that literally just comes out, and I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
All right,
love it.
cool. So continuing on, we're going to shift a little bit, and Nick has talked a lot about positioning yourself, your personal voice,
Yeah.
figuring out what your voice is and how you communicate, maybe in case studies on your website. I'm going to talk a little bit about when you're working for a brand, how to write on their behalf, right? How to discover what their voice is and then maybe push it through. So if you are a social media manager, if you are a copywriter, if you are doing publications, this is a great practice and some practices for you if you're positioning a brand for their voice to take away. So let's go ahead and jump in. Brand copywriting. Ooh. So when defining a brand voice, it's not just about what it is, it's also about what it isn't. This is something that I learned very quickly from one of my good friends that I worked with. Her name is Alena Kunkel. She does brand writing, she does brand positioning, strategy, that kind of stuff. And we were working through creating a brand together, and she did this great chart to where I was putting in like, oh, we're fun and we're happy and we're, like go-getters and whatever. And then we started having conversations of like, okay, like feeling like a go-getter is feels a little aggressive. Okay, it could feel this,
Yep.
right? That it could be these other things. If you're talking in generalities, then it needs to be more specific. So we always define what the brand voice is, but also what it is not. We use comparison statements, right? The brand is this or talks like this, but not this, right? And
Hmm.
we want those words to be similar but different. So that really helps to hone in. And I have an example from an actual client that I just finished working with right here. When communicating at Lakeside, which is a church in Northern California that I just did a big rebrand for, we should sound, and then we map out all of these words, right? I sent out a brand survey, right, that we did last week. We
Yep.
talked about onboarding, sent out the brand survey. We established here are the core key concepts of the voice that we want. And so they have all those, right? Welcoming, direct, relaxed, communicative, unified, actionable, conversational, and invitational. But something like welcoming for someone that's just like showing up on a weekend, right? And they walk
Yeah.
in and they're like, go ahead and stand up and we're going to call out your name and we're so excited that you're here, right? That's so intense. And so we want to say, okay, we're welcoming, but we're not overbearing, right?
Yeah.
And having those two, right? We're relaxed, but we're not flippant. Like we're
Yeah.
chill about it, but we do care. And so having a grid like this, as you start to develop what that brand voice is for yourself or for another brand you're working with, is so helpful, because then all the copy you write, you can say, cool, I wanted copy that was very conversational. And so I just put in a bunch of copy and like was like, hey, here's what this is, here's some information. And then you look back and you're like, ooh, it feels really matter of fact. I need to make
Yeah.
this a little more like we're having a conversation, not just me talking.
Good.
Um, yeah. Have you ever done something like this in your
Yeah,
brands?
we do. I would say the best thing we've done is like by imagining them as a person, or going back to like archetypes, personas, and things like that. If the brand is a very pioneering person, then what we've done is we've put in like those game-changing things that have to be said when any copy is being written. So if they're pioneering, they're always someone that's first to it, or they might even have an attitude. Like the brand could have an attitude, right? It could be very much in your face. It could be very like kind of like abrupt. It could, it doesn't have to be all positive. The brand could be something very, I'm trying to think of a really good idea of, or like a brand that might have that kind of, look at just like a Nike in a way.
Yep.
They've got a very to the point, less is more, right? Let's just cut to the chase kind of vibe. And again, that could be little things that you use for every cornerstone of what your copy becomes.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, and like Nike could be something that it is simple but not minimalist. Like
Yeah.
it's something like that it's like, oh, those are the same thing, and then realizing, oh, those aren't the same thing. And by creating that contrast, it
Yes.
really brings clarity into what that is.
Yeah.
And yes, sliding scales. I've definitely seen sliding scales as well.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, so brand copywriting next this is actually something that I've taken from film studies. Enter late and leave early. This is something that they always do in movies, right? To keep you interested, they enter the scene late so that something's happening. You're like, what's going on? And then you leave early to say what's coming next, right?
Yeah.
And you want to apply that to your copy when you're writing on behalf of a brand, whether it's a campaign, whatever that is. You want to employ that so that once you've established what the brand voice is, as you're building support copy, you want people to be intrigued, right? You don't want to be super, super clear. Here's what the thing is. Here's what the thing is, period.
Well, keep them curious.
Yes, exactly. You want to keep them curious, and you can have that intrigue, right? That it can solely be for intrigue and aesthetic. It doesn't have to be for call to action every single time.
Yeah.
It wants them wanting more, right? That they come in late and they're like, oh my gosh, what was happening? I need to like investigate more, and they leave early, like, oh my gosh, that's the nice way of doing clickbait. Is that right? That this ends and I want more, right? I want the call to action. I want to click through to the next page. I want to take action on this because you've left me wanting, like I left early.
Yeah. It doesn't work when you come late to office hours.
Yes.
Sorry,
it doesn't.
Elizabeth.
Sorry, Elizabeth. Yeah. Does this mean I have to leave early? Don't leave early. No.
No.
We've only got a.
Do you have an example of like, I like this idea, and I was trying to think of one real quick, but the entering late, that could just even be a headline that tells you where you're at without, I guess, a backstory. So it makes you kind of wonder like, whoa, I got to catch up. Where are we? Is that kind of the vibe?
Yes. So I'll do the leave early because I think that is one of my favorites that I see in advertising, especially is when something's heading somewhere and then it cuts. So like the best thing that I've seen, and this is one of my favorite commercials of all time, it's so well written, it's a Jack in the Box commercial, right? Yeah. And it enters late, right? Jack is like in a full suit, right? With the head on or whatever, just standing on a street corner, and it's like quiet for a second, right? And so you're thinking, okay, this has been written in so that like, I'm like, wait, why is he on a street corner? What's happening, right? We've entered late. We didn't see him walk up. We didn't see him explain anything. You're just there. Right? And so you entered late and it's written out that he's standing there, and then he looks at the camera and he just goes, some other people say that they have the best burgers, but we think we do. If you disagree, and then he rips off his sleeves and he's just yoked and he just goes, do something about it. And then the commercial ends.
There you go. Yeah.
And so it's one of those, like, you just get the moment that is the most engaging. You don't need what became before, and you're interested in what happens after, right? He rips off his sleeves, do something about it. And you're like, oh my gosh, are they going to freaking brawl right now? Like, is the Burger King going to come out and like take down Jack? That it asked that question. And then I'm like, it's so memorable. And it is that I came in late, I left early, and I want more, right? That copy is all you need, is that one little piece that it implies everything, and you want more information on either side.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to even just use personally rather than, it sounds great in advertising, and I totally get that, but trying to think of like, I'm gonna come back maybe next week with a good headline that I'm gonna change in my website or something, because I love this idea. I want to try it for sure.
Yep. Yeah, and so I did this actually. If you guys read through some of the blogs that I just posted about my first year in freelance, I try to do that with the opening, is enter late. So the openings were, I think that there was one talking about someone that I had mentored, and it just starts with, Emily didn't know she was a designer, and it's like, wait, who's Emily? Like, why is she a designer? I have another that's that starts with like, I have a weak spot for chocolate donuts and Moscato. And it's like, where's this going? What's happening? That it intrigues you into what's the context for this, and then you give them the context, right? Do you want them to be like, wait, what's going on? Here's what's going on. Read through all of this copy that we've written by getting that intrigue.
I love it.
And yes, opens for imagination. Sometimes things are scarier when you don't see them. 100%. And this is another
the best. I think like just the best horror movies have been that way. It's like drop the CGI, drop all the other stuff. Like just waiting for something around the corner will freak you out.
Absolutely. Yep. And somebody goes to, attack somebody or whatever, and it cuts away and your brain just fills in what is happening. That's that idea of leaving early, right?
Interesting. I was just watching, have you seen the Amazon show about the superheroes called The Boys?
Oh no, somebody's talking about it. It's like really like crazy, right?
Oh, it's nuts. And season 2 just dropped, I think today, and I was watching the first 5 seconds of it. And again, it comes in exactly like that. Came in late to something, and then also too, what it does is it cuts away and you just see this, and you're like, what just happened? Like, so again, it's triggering all those things in you: curiosity, interest, and you're going to stick around.
And again, even though we're talking about film, like those scenes are
it's all
written, right? That is all copywriting and translated to screen. And like we said, we're inspired by things that are not copywriting, that are not design. Figure out what those concepts are and how they make you feel, and then try to apply that to whatever it is, right? That we could do the same principle of enter late, leave early with photography.
Everything.
We could do it with literally everything. Just figure out what is making me feel this way, that I'm intrigued or I want more information, and then adapt that to your practical application.
Love that idea. Love it.
All right. Next up, please scream inside your heart. This is one of my favorite things to come from the last year. Is I don't know where it was. It was somewhere in the world, and they were like riding roller coasters, and because of COVID, they were like, please don't scream. Like, it's not good. Even if you're wearing a mask, you scream. And so there was like a little message that said like, please scream inside your heart. And I was like, yes, this is my state of being. And so here's the thing. When you're talking about copywriting, yelling into a crowded room just makes noise, right? This is just pumping out all the things that you want to say as a brand, right? It's like, hey, here I am. I'm a brand. Here's what I have to say.
Yes.
Right? Who cares? There could be a million other people saying the exact same thing, and you're literally walking into a room where everyone said the same thing already, and you're just like screaming it, and everyone else is screaming it, and then it's like your consumer standing in the middle, just like in the fetal position, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so what you want to do is you want to segment your audience and then speak specifically to them, right? So don't just put a broad message out there. Use your copy to basically parse down that audience and pull them to say, hey, I want to talk specifically to you, and I want to talk to you about this very specific thing. And so leading that to draw them in, to bring them in, to not just be like, here's the message, to say, oh, I need to tell you about something. Like, oh, what is it? Oh, it's this very special thing that I think pertains specifically to you. Oh, why? Well, because X, Y, or Z. Oh, you do understand me. Yes. So here's the thing, right? That it's starting to pull them like, hey, this way, this way, this way. Okay, now let's talk. Of using that copy to almost shepherd them and pull them right with the cane away from the crowd and the noisy room into where you want them, so you can communicate a little more clearly.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great way to do it, because the blanket approach just is not going to work. It's like throwing stuff on the wall, right? It's kind of like in that, like hoping something sticks, hoping a connection's made. How about be a little more targeted? You know?
Absolutely. Even doing specific stuff to where people will get it. And then some people won't. That's like, cool. We're literally, that's fine. I always say this when I'm telling jokes, like I push jokes until like one person in the room is laughing. And then I'm like, cool, that's my person, right? That like, oh, this is kind of funny for everyone. And then it's more specific, and then it's more specific, and then it's way more specific to where one guy is like, I'm like, cool, you get it, bro. But it's writing that so that it narrows down into that audience that you want to reach.
I love it. I love it.
So chat, this is what we're going to do for the next 10 minutes. Gosh, we're going to run tight on this show.
We're good.
Do we want to do this? I don't know if we're going to... Okay, chat, you get to pick. Chat, should we do a live practice of us copywriting, or should we look at some of the homework from last week and give feedback on what the homework was? I think we should do homework. What do you think, Nick?
Let's see what people say.
You pick, chat. Let us know what you want to do. If you want us to do a
homework
practice and see us
practice.
Yeah, homework or practice. We're gonna let you pick what the practice is, and then we'll show you how we work our process to copyright. Or we can go through and look at some of the homework from last week. So let us know which one of those you would like us to do. And in the meantime, right here, this is the Discord for you to get in. To get plugged in, for you to post your homework this week, which I'm going to flip over while we make that decision and show the homework for this week. So this week, your homework is to choose a brand and practice defining their voice and writing their copy. So you're going to pick a brand, you are going to do a brand voice, and then we are going to do some copy for a campaign, as well as a case study intro as if it's already done. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, wow. All right.
I knew that would happen. Come on. We're putting that out there.
All right, so let's head back and let's talk a little bit about our process. Chat, we need you to give us, we'll just do this quick. We need you to give us a brand, just maybe what the brand does, and then we'll go into their voice. And Nick, I think that we're going to try to just do a brand voice, because I think that'll be the quickest for us. So chat, we're going to do a brand voice. Let us know what the brand is, and then we will get to that.
Yeah, give us some ideas of what the brand is, maybe the product is. That'd be a great one. And a little bit of, and are they sassy? Are they
Yep. And Justin,
You name it.
if we don't do homework live, can we get feedback on Discord? Yes, we'll do some feedback on Discord. We'll
Yeah,
give you some feedback from last week,
for
and then
sure.
again, download the files using the link right down below for this week. That's where your homework is. That's where the slide deck is. Download those files, and then we
Ooh,
will give you some feedback when you post
I
in
like
our
that.
Discord.
Got our first brand in there, Burton Snowboards. That'd be a good one.
Yeah. Let's just jump into it because we literally have
I
10 minutes.
know. Let's do it.
So Burton Snowboard. So let's start at the very base. Who is
Base
Burton
of the
Snowboards?
mountain.
What do they do? Yeah, base of the mountain. Who are they? What do they do?
Man, well, I love everything about that brand. I think they built some great stuff. To me, I think they are a minimal, fashion driven, kind of like purposeful, thinking of their clothing, all that kind of stuff. That's what I would build. I'd say some of the traits that I would think of is they're inventive, um, they're balanced. What do you think?
Yep, I think that they are punk rock, but not anarchy.
Yeah.
Would be like one that I put in there, right? That they're not like Avril Lavigne gonna punch you in the face. They're more
Yes.
like, oh, it just like feels like Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters. Like, okay, here's what
Yeah.
it is. They're Tony Hawk today as opposed to Tony Hawk when he was like
Yes.
big time, right?
Like
That now Tony
rebellious
Hawk,
but not angry,
yeah,
right?
rebellious but not angry. That's great. Yes,
There
rebellious
you
but
go.
not angry.
Perfect.
And so yeah, that's a really really great part of the brand voice. So talking to who are they talking to?
Wow, they've probably got a pretty broad audience. I think it's got to be some of the things I would think of in who maybe they are. I would say they're dedicated. These are people that like, they're loyalist, you know?
Yes.
Like, I think when you pick a brand like that, you're doing it because you're loyal to the brand. There's a sense of pride with it. It's like I said, I think it's confident. There's a traditional but yet clean and modern vibe to everything they design.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that's the person we're trying to attract, someone that appreciates, the quality and is okay to pay a little bit more for it.
Yep. And so let's talk a little bit about maybe we're doing a campaign for them. I would
Yeah.
say that the audience that we want to speak to wants to hear tradition, but not structure. Would
Yes.
be a good way to define that, I think, right? That we have that punk rock, but it's not like flippant, it's not aggressive, and that it has some kind of tradition, right? That it's been around for a
Yes.
while, that it feels like they're loyal, but it doesn't have this structure, right? Um,
Correct.
and so let's think of maybe a campaign, right, that we're doing with those things in mind. I'm landing the plane too early, but we can keep going here. See, I started to like bring it down, and we still got 8 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Yes, we can submit homework from previous weeks, absolutely, in the Discord. Make sure that you join over there. All right, so Nick, sorry. So we have some of our kind of positioning for this brand. Let's talk about copy. So we have an
Yeah.
ad, and on this ad, it has a lineup of Burton snowboards
Mm-hmm.
as like a background, and then there's
Yeah.
one of their key snowboarders, let's say Sean White, which I don't know if he's sponsored by Burton, but let's say he
Let's
is.
just say he is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is standing in front of a wall of Burton snowboards. What
Yeah.
is the copy that we're going to put on that as the
Ooh.
headline and maybe the paragraph?
I would say there's something about the like where you've been. Like, I think there's something kind of cool about this idea of like, what's led you to here. Because like I think that tells you you're not only you're a loyalist, but you're staying a Team Burton fan
Yep.
forever. So like maybe it's something like, we've done this together. There's something united about. We're all here as fans and supporters of Burton.
Yep.
So it
And
could
so
be something like that. We do
yeah,
this together.
right
You
now,
know?
yeah. So right now we're laying the base in our process. We're trying to lay the base for everyone that's watching. This is where we start of what is the story? What are we trying to communicate? This is the why, right?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this campaign? That's what it is. And so
Yeah.
I loved what you said about like taking a journey or a movement. And
Yes.
when I think of that, I think about like bombing down a hill. I think about doing a half pipe, right? That there is movement. And so as we're going
Yes.
through this copyright, guys, I'm taking emotions that I feel, right? When I'm relating to what this is and what the brand is, and then trying to translate it. How can I make people feel those same emotions, right? So
Yeah.
let's run a little bit with the idea
Ooh.
of it being a journey, right? That it is that like it has the tradition, but it doesn't have the structure, right? Just like you're bombing down a hill, you're
Yeah.
doing some crazy tricks. How do we play with that in like a headline, a
Gosh.
short little
You
quippy
know,
headline?
you could play with it like obviously that well-known thing, it's about the journey, not the destination. And I think maybe you can play off the fact that like the journey was worth it, or something about the climb up the hill, because they're all about mountains. They're all about that. That's where it started. And so maybe it's an uphill journey.
Yep.
That it's a journey that never ends.
And I wonder if we take it
endless journey.
Yeah, what if we take it and have a little bit more of that punk rock feel, and we have an aggressive action verb, so we have like shred the journey or something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
I think we need something for journey that like says more to the tradition and like the heritage of Burton, maybe. That it's like shred the timeline, which is even worse.
Yeah.
And sorry, so side note, everyone, sometimes when you're doing copy like this, it's better to throw out the bad ideas, right? Immediately be like, this is terrible. But like the idea of like shredding the timeline, because that concept is what we want to communicate. How do we communicate that better?
Ooh, gosh, I'm really seeing things like there's definitely a sense of a tribe that you're trying to build here as a fan. So is it
what if, okay, this is I think what could be interesting, right? That we do this campaign, we have this awesome image, right, of all these boards, we have Shaun White sitting there, and what if the headline that we have is super simple and it's just shredded history? Because I think that has that it's there is a lot of history here, right? It kind of pays a nod to like shrouded in mystery, like a shrouded kind of history. But I love the shredded history, and that it is like kind of this like look back, but it also is about this punk rock that we're shredding the hills, right? So we have
it didn't come easy too.
Exactly. Yep. So we have shredded history, and maybe he's talking about injuries that people have had, that kind of stuff. So now let's move on to what would be the accompanying copy with that to get people to read the article, to engage with this, maybe the call to action.
Yeah. I think it would be like, something about the purpose, the idea. I'm looking around, seeing how big they are on sustainability and other things that like that. So they're doing it with a sense of like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're doing it with like a sense of responsibility and commitment too. So I think now the secondary line should help ground this. We're saying shredded, we're saying a little bit rebellious, but like we were saying, but they should also be grounded, showing off their social impact, but doing it with respect.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the call to action is we create a contrast there, right? We have shredded history as like the big, like it's edgy or whatever. The call to action would be like shred your story. Right. That feels personal to me. I'm talking to a specific audience, right? I've segmented the people into the room that I want, and I'm saying now it's time for you to shred your story. And so, like you said, maybe the copy talks a little bit about, through the decades of Burton snowboards, we've stayed constant and steadfast, right? Things that we want, again, we're nailing back to the tradition. Right. The tradition. We've stayed constant and steadfast while adapting and like pushing the envelope or something like that.
Yeah. Like there's that sense of the tradition and everything they've learned in the past, but then their commitment to technology and things like that. That's a very unique balance that a company like them has to think about. So a nod to the past, but like a respect to the future.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Like we see the past, but we're not defined by it. And then something that is the lead into the shred your story, right? We see the past, but we're not defined to it. It's time to, leave your blank on the hill, leave, something that you're moving on, right?
Leave your mark on the hill.
I love that. It's time to leave your mark on the hill, shred your story. That's I think what we got.
$50,000.
There we go. Yeah. Invoice us. Let us know, Burton. We're ready to do that campaign for you. But yeah, so that's how we run a kind of practice to figure out what that is. Again, we're trying to get the base, and then we're trying to translate what associated cognitive barriers do we have that just kind of pin to each other. What are the emotions we want to convey, and then how do we twist that to be a little more interesting and segment into the people that we want to communicate to?
Yeah, it's so worth saying, dude. Like I'd love that. Look, we didn't practice this in any way. Burton came up through the chat. And I think, again, if you're reluctant, or if this isn't coming to you naturally, it didn't come to us naturally years ago. You do it over and over.
I've done this so much. Yeah.
Right. And the exercise we just did, do it with a friend, do it with a colleague, pick a random company, have their website open, and just try it out. These little key words are all throughout their website.
Yep.
And why not try it? I think it's a really, really fun way to kind of mess around and just get your feet in the water and try something unique with copywriting.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
don't forget to do your homework this week. Make sure you go to bit.ly/Adobe Office Hours right down there. And your lecture, again, is going to be to choose a brand and practice defining their voice and writing their copy. So just like we did at the end of today, pick a brand and do those things. Pick out their brand voice, do some copy, do a case study intro at the end, and make sure that you post that in our Discord right here. And you can get to the Discord bit.ly/fall semester-al. So check that out, get connected, and we can't wait to see you next week. We'll be doing a application spotlight on Adobe XD. It's going to be
Big
super
week
fun.
next week. We got
It's
a
a
lot
big
of
week next
appearances,
week.
man.
We do. So tune back in next week. We're going to be all over the place. We'll be checking in, and make sure you tune in at 11:30 every day for the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenges. I'm here to help you learn for the next 2 weeks. So tune in then, and we will see you all next week. Adios.
Have a great weekend.
Oh, there's a button that I need to push right now. Let's figure out which one it is. This is how we end this show, y'all. We're just going to stay on until we get cut off. That's what's going to happen. Here we go. Hold on. I'm going to do... This is the first time this has happened. All right. Hold on. Let's go here.
Uh-oh.
1 second, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.